welcome back to another What's for Dinner video, or welcome if you are new. My name is Veronica, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you some meals that I fixed for my family this past week. I have 3 new recipes to share with you all, so I hope it can give you and your family some meal inspiration and maybe some new meal ideas to try. Let's get to cooking! This night for dinner, I fixed fried chicken and gravy. I started off by pouring 2 cups of flour in a large bowl. And then I added in 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. Once I got all of those dry ingredients added to my bowl, I just took my whisk and whisked all of those dry ingredients together. I then set that bowl to the side, and in a separate bowl I added in 1.5 cups of buttermilk, 1 egg, and 1 tablespoon of hot sauce. Once I got all of those ingredients added to my bowl, I then took my whisk and whisked all of those ingredients together as well until everything was well combined. And then I had 7 thinly sliced chicken breasts. And then 1 chicken breast at a time. I first dipped it in my flour mixture, and then I dipped it in my egg mixture, and then I dipped it back in my flour mixture, and then I just set it on a plate until it was ready to fry. And then I just continued this process with each individual chicken breast. Once I got all of my chicken coated in all of those ingredients, I then moved over to my stove, and in a large skillet I poured in some vegetable oil, and I let that vegetable oil heat up. And then whenever it was heated up, I then added my chicken. I added about 3 in my skillet at a time, and that way it wasn't overcrowded. And I let that fry for about 4 to 5 minutes on each side, just until each side was golden brown. And then I removed it from the skillet and I placed it on a plate lined with a paper towel to drain the grease off of it. I also made sure that my chicken reached an internal temperature of 165 degrees before I removed it from the skillet. Once all of my chicken was finished cooking, I then started making my gravy. In a large skillet, I added in 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, and I let that vegetable oil heat up for just a minute. And then I added in 1/3 cup of flour, and then I just mixed the vegetable oil and the flour together until the flour was well absorbed in the vegetable oil. And then I just let that flour and oil cook for an additional minute. I then poured in 2 cups of milk, and I just poured that in a little bit at a time while I stirred it, and then I just continuously stirred that until that thickened up. And I also added some salt and pepper to taste. It just took a few minutes to make this gravy. This was actually the first time in several years that I used vegetable oil instead of butter while making my gravy. And the butter definitely tastes better, so the next time that I make this, I will definitely use the butter and not the vegetable oil. And here's my plate. I also fixed some mashed potatoes, some sweet peas, and some Sister Schubert dinner yeast rolls to have as a side, and this was a wonderful meal. This night for dinner, I fixed French toast casserole. The first thing that I did was cut up my bread into cubes. I used 1 full loaf of brioche bread. This was my first time making this, and I had looked at 2 different recipes that I really liked, and I just combined my favorite things about each recipe and kind of made it my own. This recipe, however, is very sweet, just like French toast is sweet. And where I used brioche bread is naturally sweet anyway, so I cut down on the sugar than what both recipes suggested because I didn't want it to be overly sweet, but this will definitely fill you up quick. After I got all of my bread cut up into cubes, I then sprayed a large baking dish with some nonstick spray, and I added all of my bread into my baking dish and just spread that in there evenly. Once I got all of my bread added to my baking dish, I set that aside, and in a large bowl, I added 8 eggs, 2 cups of milk, a half a cup of heavy whipping cream, half of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, 2 tablespoons of white granulated sugar. Once I got all of those ingredients added, I then took a whisk and whisked all of those ingredients together until everything was well combined. I then poured the egg mixture over top of my bread, and I made sure that all of my bread was well covered in the egg mixture. Once I got all of the egg mixture added, I then covered my baking dish with some clear plastic wrap. And then I stuck this in the refrigerator, and I'll let this sit in the refrigerator for several hours, and that way the bread could soak up all of the egg mixture. After I stuck my baking dish in the refrigerator, I started preparing my crumble topping. In a bowl, I added a half a cup of all-purpose flour, a half a cup of brown sugar, a half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1 stick of butter that I had cut up into slices, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I then used my pastry cutter and mixed all of this together until it was crumbly. If you don't have a pastry cutter, you could also use a fork to do this. Once it got a crumble-like texture, I then added all of that into a Ziploc bag, and I stuck it in the refrigerator alongside my French toast casserole. After letting it set for several hours, and after the bread had soaked up all of the milk and egg mixture, I then removed it from the refrigerator and I sprinkled my crumble topping over top of the bread. After I got my crumble topping added, I then stuck it in the oven that I had preheated to 350 degrees, and I baked it for 45 minutes. And this is what it looks like whenever it comes out of the oven. Not only is this a great breakfast meal, but if you are like us and you like breakfast for dinner, then it's also a good meal for dinner. And might I add, it's also very kid friendly. And this is what it looks like on a plate. This night for dinner, I made bubble up lasagna. The first thing that I done was brown 1 pound of ground beef. This was my first time making the bubble up lasagna, and it was really good. However, I think I do prefer the bubble up pizza over the bubble up lasagna, but like I said, this was really good as well, and it was very easy to make. And once my ground beef was finished cooking, I then just took that and drained all of the grease off of it. And then I just set my ground beef to the side while I prepared my other ingredients. I then took 2 cans of biscuits. I used the 6-ounce cans that contain the smaller biscuits. And I opened those up and I took my pizza cutter and I cut each biscuit into 8 pieces. The next time that I make this, I'm going to try cutting my biscuits into 4ths instead of 8ths and just increase my cooking time until my biscuits are finished cooking. I wanted more of a biscuit in with all of the sauce mixture that I will be showing you how to make here in just a minute. Like I said, this way was good. I just wanted more of a biscuit in mine. Once I got all of my biscuits cut up, I just placed them to the side, and in a large bowl I poured in 1 cup of spaghetti sauce. You can use your family's favorite spaghetti sauce, 1 cup of cottage cheese, and a 1/2 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. Once I got those 3 ingredients added to my bowl, I just mixed everything together until everything was well combined. I then added my biscuits to that and gave it another good stir. Once I had all of those ingredients mixed up really well, I then sprayed a large baking dish with some nonstick spray, and I added all of those ingredients into the bottom of my baking dish, and I just spread all of that in there evenly. I then poured my remaining 24-ounce jar of spaghetti sauce over top of my ground beef, and I mixed the ground beef and spaghetti sauce together. I then poured the meat mixture on top and spread that on there evenly. I then sprinkled 2 cups of mozzarella cheese on top. I am using the plant-based mozzarella cheese here, so it will look a little bit different. This is dairy-free. I bought this to try. I am lactose intolerant, so I wanted to see how this cheese would do. I then sprinkled some dried parsley flakes on top. This is totally optional. I just wanted to give it a little bit of color. I then placed it in the oven that I had preheated to 375 degrees, and I baked it for 30 minutes. And this is what it looks like whenever it comes out of the oven. As you can see, it looks a little bit different because I used the plant-based mozzarella cheese, but that's okay. It was still good. This night for dinner, I fixed Tyson honey battered chicken tenders, and for our sides, I fixed some Velveeta macaroni and cheese and some brown and serve dinner rolls, and I just fixed each one according to the package directions. This day was a very busy day. We had 3 different doctor's appointments, so whenever I came home, I just wanted an easy meal to fix, and this is one of my family's favorite easy but delicious meals. We all enjoy it. That's it for today's video. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.